Hello again everyone, and welcome to what will be the last Maltego Essentials video. This is not to say we are going to stop creating helpful tutorial videos like these. Instead, from here on we will start focusing on the more advanced aspects of Maltego and showcasing use cases and investigations that our data partners enable. In this video, we are going to touch on what can be a slightly complicated topic, but we will focus on only the essentials and leave the rest up for you to explore. We are going to have a look at importing third-party tabular data into Maltego. This could be from, say, Excel or a CSV file. To keep things simple, I have created two datasets that I will be using in this demonstration. The data you're in is completely fictional, crafted to highlight some of the features of the tabular data importability rather than represent a real-world example. Hopefully, if you have such data of your own, you will see from these examples how the importing of tabular data works. Maltego is first and foremost an exploratory link analysis tool, with the emphasis on exploring data. Dumping data in large quantities into Maltego is not one of its typical use cases, but it could be a useful start to an investigation. Other than the source of the data being from a file, the rest of Maltego works and behaves as normal. In other words, we will create entities and you can then run transforms on these. Changing layouts, views, and advanced concepts such as collection nodes all behave the same. Let me start by showing you the datasets that I have crafted. The first one is a database of personal information, perhaps something I might have extracted from my HR database. It contains a name, surname, email address, phone number, and the country, city, and country code of birth. This file is called personalinformation.csv. We will pretend the second file, called loginaudit.csv, is an audit file generated from the VPN login records of our security information and event management system. This file contains the email address of the person, IP address where they logged in from, and the date of the login. We will start with the simpler of the two files, the audit log. In Maltego, directly from the home page, click on the application icon, import, and then import a third-party table. This will launch the import wizard. The first page shows a tutorial, but I will skip this one for now as I will be taking you through these steps in any case. You can look at it again in the future for a reminder. At the top, make sure your mapping configuration is set to New. We will come back to this in a little bit. Browse to the login audit file and click Next. You can choose how you want the entities to be connected. Initially, all cells in your table are individual entities, but you can set up whether you want links to be created between some of the columns. With tabular imports, entities between rows will not be connected unless they are the same, using the standard merging rules of Maltego. Fully meshed means all entities within one row will be connected to each other. Sequential means the columns will be linked in order, that is column A with B, B with C, C with D, and so on. Tree means the first column, column A, will be connected to all the others, and manual means nothing will be set up initially. Regardless of the option you choose, you can modify the connectivity in the next few screens. Select manual for now and click Next. The first drop-down menu will allow you to choose whether the table has a header row or not. There are some other advanced options as well, but it is a bit outside of the scope of this video. Maltego will try to guess which is the correct option and will in this case correctly indicate that the first row is a header row. Next, Maltego will guess the entity types for each column. It does not do a bad job using the regular expressions associated with each entity, but it could make mistakes as we will see in the next example. For now, it seems the email and IP address entities were determined correctly. The date is currently set as a phrase entity, but in fact we are going to unmap it so that it does not become an entity at all, and rather write the date on the link between the email and the IP address. To do this, click on the date header and click on Unmap column under the second step. If you want to map it to another entity type, you would click on the column and in the second step choose another type, but we will look at this in the next example. Next up, we want to set up the connections. Do not click Next. Instead, at the top, switch to the Connectivity Graph tab. The entities that you generate from the mappings are shown here. Using your mouse, you can click and drag from one entity to another to set up a link to be created. Click and drag from the IP address to the email address. For some it is easier to do this in a connection table, so if you prefer, you can switch to the connectivity table tab at the top and set up links from one entity to another. Now that we have a link set up, we can also map the data to that link, and the Map Columns to Links tab has become available to do this with. Switch to that now. As with the entities, select the head of the column you want to map, in this case, the date. This time, in the second step, you are going to choose the link you want to map to. In our case, there is only one, but the hint will guide you in case you are unsure. Finally, in the third step, ensure the date column is mapped to the label property of the link. Notice how you could also influence the thickness or the color of the link in this way. Now we are ready to click Next. The options shown here are quite self-explanatory, but in brief it allows you to choose if you want to import only a sampling, what to do with white spaces and empty values, if Maltego should stop after creating a certain amount of entities, and whether links are allowed to merge. Since we started from the start screen, we cannot choose where the graph will be created, but that is okay. Maltego will add the imported data to a new graph for us. At the bottom, you can choose to save the import configuration under a name. If it is something you expect to do repeatedly from a standard file structure, it makes sense. Let us save it under Login Audit. Once you click Next, Maltego will show you a summary of what was created, and when you click Finish, your new graph will open. Hooray! It seems our IPs are linked with our email addresses, and as a label on the link we can see when those people logged in as well. Notice Belinda here logged in twice from the same IP, but on different dates, and that Arush, Maxim and Leia logged in from the same IP address. Let us jump right into our second example. Hopefully it will be a little bit easier to follow the second time around, but we are also going to try a few new fancy things. With the graph open, start up the import wizard again. This time we are going to select the personalinformation.csv file. As before, skip the tutorial page. You will want to select the file, but before you click Next, look at the top at the mapping configuration. Maltego is guessing that we want to reuse our previously saved mappings, but this is not correct, so make sure to pick New before clicking Next. In the connectivity options, select the Manual mode. Once again, at the top, Maltego correctly determined that the first row contains headers, but this time there is not enough information to extract valid entities from the different columns, other than for the email and phone number entities. This is in part because we need to combine columns into single entities before it will make sense. The first two columns must be combined into one person entity. To do this, select both of them together by holding the Command or Control key and clicking both of the headers. In the second step, choose the person entity. Notice that the name column has been mapped to full name and the surname column to first names. These are properties of the person entity, but it is not quite correct. Let us fix it. By selecting the combined header, you can change the property mappings under step 3. Change the mapping so that the name maps to the first name's property and the surname to the surname property. For the last 3 columns, we want to do something similar. This time, we want to map them all into one location entity. Select the country column and then holding the Control or Command key, select the city and country code columns as well. In step 2, select the location entity as the type that we want to map these columns to. Select any one of the headers and look at the property mappings. It needs a bit of work. Change them so that they map to the proper properties. Once again, remember not to click Next yet. First, go to the connectivity graph at the top and set up the links as you would prefer. I am going to interpret what I am busy with as a way to get personal information based on the login, which is the email address. Therefore, I'm going to drag a link from the email entity to each of the other entities. In the connectivity table, you will see the same. From the email entity, we link to the other entities. Since I do not want to map anything to the links themselves, I'm ready to click Next. This time, under the Add Imported Graph To option, I am going to choose to merge it into my current graph. I am also going to save it as a new mapping called Personal Information. Click Next and then Finish. Et voila, you now have the new entities neatly merged into the same graph. It seems that Colleen and Israr are both from Norway. Who would have guessed? Interesting. As mentioned in the beginning of this video, these entities are normal Maltego entities and you could run transforms on them as you would any other entity. Importing tables can be a little bit confusing, but hopefully by practicing a bit it will become second nature to you. Come and watch this video again as many times as necessary to remind you of the steps required. Also remember, the tutorial that is on the first page of the import wizard will also serve as a reminder of how this is done. That is it then for this video and for now, the end of this series. If you have not yet looked at the other videos, I encourage you to do so. If you have been following from the start, congratulations! I hope you found it useful and we will see you again in the next series. Cheers for now.